Before we get started on today's video, let me tell you about my sponsor, Hunt to Harvest. Now, Hunt to Harvest is a family-owned company that was founded by a veteran and member of law enforcement, and it was birthed out of the desire to protect the hunt, to support the harvest of the animal instead of focusing on the trophy, whether it be deer, turkey, or pheasant. And to the people at Hunt to Harvest, it is all about spending time with loved ones, providing for your family with the harvest, as well as giving thanks to the one who created all things big and small. And you too can support this great company by going to hunttoharvest.com, going through their selection of t-shirts, whether it be short sleeve or long sleeve. These shirts are true to fit after one wash, and they're made 100% Peruvian cotton. You can also go through their selection of hats, which are the Richardson 112 style, which I believe is the best hat on the market today, as well as many other accessories. Just follow the link in the description below and enter that code below the description for a special discount at checkout at hunttoharvest.com. Welcome back to another episode of 3 White on YouTube. I'm your host, Radney Crawford. This week we're going to be going over one main topic, and that is the penalty to Cole Custer and Stewart Haas Racing after the race at the ROVAL on Sunday. Now, just giving a little flashback on the race Sunday, you had Chase Briscoe tied with Kyle Larson for the final spot in the round of 8 to move on into the playoffs. And with the tie, Chase Briscoe was still going to be good to make it to the next round on the tiebreaker, but going into the chicane on the back straightaway, last lap, Cole Custer hits the brakes pretty hard, jams up traffic, allows Chase Briscoe to pass not only Custer, but as well as Eric Jones, get him 2 extra points to get into that next round of the playoffs. NASCAR went back, said they were investigating it, and after looking into it, they found that I guess there was enough evidence to penalize Cole Custer and Stewart Haas Racing that they affected the outcome of the race. They fined Cole Custer $100,000, docked him 50 points. Crew Chief Mike Shiplett was suspended indefinitely, so pretty big hit there. And we're going to look into really what all was said by NASCAR official Scott Miller, some comments over social media, and give my thoughts on this whole penalty. Now, there is an appeal pending on this penalty, and given the way some of the rulings have went over the past couple drivers, there's no telling how this may, truly end up with the appeal board. But after NASCAR announced the penalty initially, that the $100,000 fine, the 50 points, and the indefinite suspension of the crew chief, I said they must have some concrete evidence, somebody on that radio giving explicit instructions to Cole Custer to hey, we got Chase Briscoe back there, he's close on points, we need to give him everything he can, help him out. But after the press conference they had shortly after they announced the penalties, I didn't get that rock solid evidence that I was expecting. In the press conference, NASCAR official Scott Miller stated that there were some things that were said on the radio that something had to be done. Now, what that was said on the radio wasn't explicit as what I was thinking. Apparently, Mike Shiplett told Cole Custer going into the chicane, hey, you got a flat tire, check up, which you saw Cole Custer slam on brakes, his tires go up in smoke, and he reacted to it. And with that radio communication, Scott Miller said that was pretty telling, and it was obviously with the data that something deliberate was done, and they felt like they needed to take action. And the one crazy thing out of that I took away was how they mentioned that a suspension to Cole Custer was considered or was discussed. Even though there's nothing was said in the press conference, I haven't heard any radio communication that shows Cole Custer even knew what was going on around him or anything. I mean, he was running in the top 10, which he needed a good solid run. But to hear them even mention that they were discussing suspending him is pretty out there as far as the stiffness of the penalty. Now, as far as Chase Briscoe goes, he is by all accounts free and clear. They found no evidence that he was involved in this or that any instructions came from his team to Cole Custer's. And NASCAR even said when they were getting ready to do this investigation, it was not going to affect the round of 8, which led me and several others to say, well, then why are we even investigating it? I mean, if nothing's going to be done to the person who benefited from it, if something was done wrong, then there's no point. Just because it's like the William Byron penalty when the appeals board changed the penalty to just a $100,000 fine and no points taken away after the incident with Denny Hamlin. You're not really sending a message that, hey, stop that, we're not playing this anymore. It's just in this case, okay, we got fined $100,000, but we still got a driver in the playoffs to go for the championship. So it all evens out. And the reason they didn't change, that they said they weren't looking to change the round of 8 as far as who got in and who got out, was because they don't believe that this was the sole reason that Briscoe got in over Kyle Larson. It just seems very contradicting. It wasn't the sole reason Chase Briscoe got in, but it was blatant enough that we need to look into this. It just doesn't add up, at least to my mind it doesn't. Now, a lot of things can go over my head. Maybe that statement is, but when you're saying that you don't think this is the sole reason that Chase Briscoe got in, okay, well, why are we digging that deep in this, especially with something as simple as the radio communication of a crew chief telling them, hey, you got a flat, check up, and the driver reacting to that. There's been a lot more blatant things go on in the sport than that was let go, was never even looked into as far as the public knows. Now, some of those previous moments that I mentioned and that was brought up a lot on social media was the case back in 2021 with Chase Elliott and Kevin Harvick, where you had Chase Elliott leading, Kevin Harvick makes a tight move underneath them, sending them 3 wide with the lap car in the corner. Chase gets a flat tire. Chase, not very happy, goes back on the track and blocks Harvick and really, takes away his chance at a win, allows his teammate Kyle Larson to get ahead. Chase Elliott said on the radio, it's on YouTube, you can look it up, that Chase Elliott said, where's the 5 car? I want to help him out. To me, that's a lot more blatant at trying to affect the outcome of the race. But NASCAR says, and they even addressed this in the press conference, the reason that incident was different from this with Custer and Briscoe was because there were no team orders. You just had Chase Elliott, who had, in his mind been done wrong and was going to go out and settle the score. There was no, it wasn't like his crew chief or Rick Hendrick got on his radio and said, hey, go take care of that. Do not let the 4 win. That'd be a whole different story. I mean, that's really going to be opening up Pandora's box. So you're basically saying because a crew member, a team member, did not give Chase Elliott instructions, that don't count as affecting the outcome, even though what Chase Elliott did was very much affect the outcome and even stayed on the radio. Here's why I'm doing it. I'm going to help the 5 out. You have, obviously, Chase Elliott saying, I'm going to help the 5. That's, to me, blatantly, you're going to go out there and affect the end of this race because you're not happy or because you're trying to help out a teammate. Where was the crew chief audio from Mike Shiplett that says something to the effect of, 14 cars coming, he needs help, do what you got to do, block for him, hit the brakes, let him get by you and this other guy. Anything remotely close to that. There's not. There was just the radio communication of, hey, you got a flat tire, check out. To me, that's disputable. I mean, you could simply, as the crew chief, you go on that appeals board, all you simply got to say is, from the data I saw, I thought we had a flat tire and I reacted. And that's a pretty solid defense in this, just because there's no, flagrant attempt to say, hey, we got to help out our buddy. We got to help out our teammate. Another instance was back in 2020 at Martinsville, which is right there at the end of the playoffs, drivers trying to get into that championship 4 race. You had Eric Jones was given instructions and told, as he was trying to pass Denny Hamlin for, I believe it was 3rd place, by his spotter, don't pass him, don't get by him. And Eric Jones' crew chief and spotter at the time just constantly saying how tight of a points battle it is for Denny Hamlin to make it to the next round. And to me, if you want to throw a penalty or penalize a team for being blatant and screwing around with the outcome of a race, there you go right there. Because you can go and find it on YouTube, all the radio transmission from Eric Jones in those final 15 laps. And it's just constantly being fed to him, hey, this guy's tight on points, we don't need to get by him. And Eric getting frustrated. Pretty much, he's faster than Denny, why can't I go by him? If he's supposedly this many points to the good, we're pretty good bit back from those other cars. Let me by him. But again, no penalty was served, no investigation was said. And Miller even stated in his press conference that they've probably let things go in the past, slip by them, not penalize people, but they felt like they needed to take a stand here and set the precedent, and they felt like there was just so much that went on at the end of this race in that last lap that they just had enough, and they had to throw out that penalty. To me, that you're picking your battle on the wrong hill just because it's less evidence. If you want to put your foot down, it should have been last year or in 2020. Yeah, in 2020, excuse me, with Eric Jones and Denny Hamlin. You have much more solid foundation there for a team order to pretty much get their guy into that final round, into the championship race at Phoenix. It was much more prevalent then, but NASCAR chose to fight this hill, so we'll see how it turns out. And to me, this is a very slippery slope you're now starting. And even Rodney Childers alluded to it in the tweet that you can see right there next to me, that with this, he takes the message as now it's now officially okay for a teammate to affect the outcome of a race, even though, as long as nobody on the team radio talks, as long as this is the driver making an independent decision to go do it, no harm, no foul. So now we could be going into this championship race or even the cutoff race before Phoenix and have something real screwy happen, and NASCAR's going to be in an even worse situation because they have now set this precedent. This is another slippery slope ruling that we've had in the past few weeks. And you look back with William Byron after the deal at Texas, where he spins Denny Hamlin under caution on the front straightaway in front of pit road, the tower, everybody, and NASCAR says, oh, we didn't see it, and they penalize him after the fact. Now, it was a penalty I agree with. I think NASCAR had the right ruling on that. Taking 25 points away from him, to me, sent the message, especially in the playoffs, that put him below the cut line at the time, that, hey, we're not screwing around with this. Don't mess with each other under caution. Now, the penalty went to the appeals board, which is not NASCAR itself. It's, kind of an independent group themselves, and they changed the penalty. Can't fault NASCAR for that. While I wish NASCAR had made the penalty on Byron at some point in the race, they didn't. They said they didn't see it, but on Wednesday or Tuesday, I forget which day it was, they announced a decent penalty, one that I agree with. And because of all these appeals that have been getting overturned, it's led to NASCAR rewording some of their penalties to kind of make it more concrete when they set them up, and if a driver or a team wants to appeal it. So NASCAR's making the right moves, I feel like, to strengthen their case in some of these instances. I just feel like with the Cole Custer situation here, it was, picking the wrong battle. There's been more obvious reasons or more obvious incidents where they could have stepped in. But as I've said many times in this video, they chose this one. So, but what's done is done. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the appeals hearing, because, like I said, they are appealing it. Tony Stewart's not happy at all. It sounds like he's getting pretty fed up because you've had this penalty, and as well as the one with Kevin Harvick with the $100,000 fine there, and Rodney Childers being suspended for 4 races. He can't come back until the season finale. And it'll be interesting to see if any of this comes back around before we hit the season. We still got 4 races left. You got a cutoff race. I believe it'll be at Martinsville, and the championship race. I hope everything goes smoothly there, just so we can avoid any controversy. NASCAR can avoid, a black eye in any of this, and we can just have a true champion without anything screwy going on at Martinsville or at Phoenix. But it's going to be interesting to see how these next 3 races play out. Who's going to solidify themselves as in the championship race to go for that championship. You got a lot of unknowns there. I believe right now the only repeat champions we could have is Chase Elliott or Joey Logano. So pretty high chance we could be crowning a new champion this year. And it's going to be interesting as they start to set the field starting this weekend at Las Vegas. But I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their weekend. Don't forget, you can subscribe to my weekly podcast. The link is below at anchor.fm/3Y3. You can find it on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcast, Amazon Music, numerous podcast platforms. And also don't forget to go to that link below for my sponsor, Hunt to Harvest. Enter the code that's below it and get yourself a special discount on any of their apparel they have in their store. And we will meet same time next week, go over all the action that went over at Las Vegas, and who knows, hopefully we can have a controversy-free race and just have something simple to talk about. But y'all have a good one, and we'll see you next time.